Great to have you back for another Performance Matters podcast series. And this time we're honored to have Dr. Aubrey Kurteff join us from Meta, who's done some remarkable work in her journey to a performance-first approach. And more importantly, some great content management work, which is critical in the world we live in today with AI and other things. So give a listen, and we hope you find it helpful. Friends, welcome back to another Performance Matters podcast series. Bob Mosher here, one of your co-hosts. We are so thrilled and honored that you give a listen to these things. You hope you're finding them helpful. Today, I am honored to be joined by a remarkable colleague and friend who was gracious enough to do a wonderful thought leader workshop for our 2025 5 Moments of Need Summit here in Charlotte. It was so well done. And she's so wonderful at this that she was gracious enough to come back to our podcast and give you sort of a highlight and best features from that particular thing. So I'm honored to welcome Dr. Aubrey Kurteff to our call from Meta. Aubrey, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Hi, Bob. Thank you so much. I'm truly, truly honored to be here.
Well, we are as well, friend. So appreciate you. So as we do with every one of these, friend, obviously many haven't met you. And they're obviously in a workflow 5 moments of need mindset coming into this. Level set for us your journey, specifically into your role and the good work you've done there. But how did you arrive at L&D maybe, or even 5 moments? Give us how you kind of got here.
Sure. So I started my journey in L&D kind of in the classic way that I know a lot of my colleagues started, and that was K-12 education.
Me too.
Yep, it's really such a great way to start my career. I taught high school English for a few years, absolutely loved it. But what really stuck out to me was the technology piece. I am lucky enough that I was in a school that had laptops for every single student. And I loved getting to work with the technology. And that kind of got me thinking, okay, where can I go next that I'm going to get to work with technology and marry that with education? And that kind of brought me into technology and instructional design. E-learning's been around forever, but there's still a lot of organizations that e-learning is the thing. So when I joined tech as an instructional design, it was a lot of building e-learnings. While I made that transition, I actually also started my PhD. And something that I read was this little thing called 5 Moments of Need. And I was like, that's pretty interesting. And it became my bread and butter. My program was a lot of K-12 educators, not a lot of corporate educators. So I became like the 5 Moments of Need person. I wanted to talk about it all the time. There weren't a lot of people in my program that talked about it. And then I was lucky enough to land at Meta, where 5 Moments of Need was the bread and butter. It was an interview question. Have you ever heard of 5 Moments of Need? And I was like,
amazing.
Have I heard of it? I love it. Absolutely love it. I kind of fell into it. I wasn't looking for 5 Moments of Need, but
That's
I read it
awesome.
and I was like, okay, this makes sense. Why isn't everyone using this?
Spectacular. And you are a part of a wonderful organization. We've had other of your colleagues on this podcast who've done just, I think, groundbreaking work pulling 5 moments of need forward as a methodology. And so you have this remarkable role as a learning solutions partner at Meta. Love that. And you also do something that I think is counter to how we think about content development, which is content at warp speed. I don't think the listening IDs on this call are going to go, that's kind of like jumbo shrimp. It's kind of like an oxymoron for me. So go a bit deeper. Can you paint a picture of the operational demands and how your team is structured to meet this idea of where we're going to get into content management and this remarkable thing of content at warp speed?
Sure. So I don't want to get too in the weeds with my work specifically, but Meta, it's huge. Our family of apps, we have billions of users across all of our apps in a world that's constantly changing and seems to be changing even faster than it did 5 years ago. So there's a lot of changes that have to happen, and we not only have to react to those changes, we have to be proactively prepared. So I think COVID is actually a really great example I like to use to illustrate the speed with which we have to work. The world just changed pretty much overnight for most people. when it comes to our social media, people were maybe starting to sell miracle cures, things that really they shouldn't have been doing. There were new kinds of content on Meta's platforms that became violating, and
Mm,
our global team of content reviewers needed to be trained very, very, very fast.
mm,
So it was kind of, all right, how do we do this? How do we train these people really fast? In my team specifically, we're structured in a way where we're getting requests from the business saying, hey, there's a new violation type, there's a new policy change, or even our metrics are low. How do we improve them? And our team, we need to determine how do we make that happen? And I think where we get a lot of that warp speed is the difference between formal training and workflow
mm,
learning. Because as an
mm.
instructional designer, I personally find the workflow learning a lot faster to build than a full PowerPoint deck, a full e-learning. It's faster for us to build, and it's
That's brilliant.
also we're not taking those reviewers off the floor, and it's faster for us to achieve those business goals. So kind of
Love
everyone's
that.
happy at the end.
Love that. So you're taking me right into my next question, friend, because you use Enable framework
Mhm.
to move from alignment to sustainment. For teams designing for 5 moments out there that are listening to this and they're considering this journey, how has this model helped you balance speed with instructional quality?
So hopefully everyone here knows Enable if you're
Hmm.
listening. If not, the rundown is it's better Addy, in my opinion. And Addy is so focused on learning goals,
Hmm.
and Enable is focused on performance. And I think the two parts of Enable that I find most helpful when it comes to speed, and I also personally find most important, are the engage to align and the analyze to
Mm,
design. Engage to align, that's keeping us really focused on the business needs. It's drowning out all of the other stuff that isn't as critical and isn't really mattering to our stakeholders and to our
mm,
learners at the end of the day. Analyze to design, that continues that. It's where we determine, all right, do we actually even need training for this? Is this something formal training is going to help us achieve, or is it just going to be performance support, or maybe even nothing? Is this where our job ends for now? And at the end of the day, that really does save us a boatload of time. If you slow down to understand the business needs first, we're reducing the number of e-learnings we're building or the content that we're building. That takes a lot of time. So we're spending our time focused on the less design heavy materials that
mm.
are also a lot more impactful because they're being accessed in the flow of work, and we're not taking anyone out of the workflow to train. And second, I also find that when we're understanding the business needs, we're reducing our need to redesign and come back. We're getting it right ideally in the first try, and I find that we're getting it right the first try a lot more with Enable. Because before that, maybe we had to tick a box. Yeah, the population's trained. You're welcome. But now it's like, oh no, we're focused on these metrics and moving the needle. So our design is going to look different now than if we were
Yeah.
just trying to train them on everything.
I just love that because so many people who come into this, Aubrey, when one of the objections or obstacles they see before they even start is that it takes me forever to do training now. So if I add this performance thing, and if I add a digital coach, it's going to double my design time and to get the training done in time. And the way you just took us through that journey and the shift to a performance focused changes that whole calculation. I mean, it's just remarkable. So you guys have one of the most rigorous content strategies I think I've ever seen. I know Dr. Gottfredson Kahn. It's just been so taken by his journey with you guys through this. And it's been quite a while. Your access and takedown issues from the workflow, are impressively detailed. The stuff you took us through in the summit was remarkable. How did breaking down these tasks help uncover hidden learning needs? And how did that shape your content strategy that we'll go deeper into in a bit?
Yeah, and I do want to call out that that was the too long didn't read version of those workflows. It gets even more in the weeds, very, very detailed. My approach to mapping our workflow is to just not be an instructional designer for a second,
Hmm. Hmm.
which I know is really hard. It's ingrained in a lot of us. I find that if I'm mapping a workflow and I think, oh, we actually have content that does that already. I'm really not immersing myself in the workflow, and I'm not doing the performers and the reviewers who my audience is, I'm not doing them justice. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I already got this done, check.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm trying to, we'll say, revamp an entire training process and I'm mapping the workflow, I want to see what's actually being done day to day. That is going to help me determine, one, are there behaviors that actually shouldn't be happening? Are our performers doing things that they really shouldn't be doing? And that helps us form a relationship with the business where they're like, hey, we can actually improve the process from a business standpoint. We're now
Mm.
performance consulting at its finest. We're not
Yep.
just training. We're helping them improve performance and how people do their work on a daily basis. And it also helps us understand what truly needs formal training, what
Mm.
needs performance support with criticality of failure and complexity. So I just forget about any existing materials we have. I forget about
Mm.
training. I just go
Mm.
in and say, what am I doing as a performer? If I let's just pretend I'm this person, what do I do and where do I need support? What is my moment of change or solve, right? Like understanding those moments really helps us uncover those hidden needs and helps us shape our strategy, because now I know what's going to require formal training, maybe what's not. And that's going to, I know we've been talking a lot about warp speed. That's going to save me time at the end of the day.
I love that because so many people want to, again, this is the mindset shift, right? So many people want to pivot on existing content.
Hmm.
And I think what you outlined there is that sometimes that can get in the way of getting the true performance and what you want to do, what you truly want to design in this methodology, and kind of let that be there in the background, but really go at it with a fresh perspective. So
Exactly. When we get to the build to implement, that's when I'm going to look at a lot of my
I love
existing
that.
material. Is I'm not building at the engage and analyze
So
part
good.
yet. So I just like to save that. And I'm sure we'll talk about reusable content objects.
We are.
The way we build, I want to reuse content, but I'm not going to do the performers justice. And in our team, we just don't want to think about what already
Mm,
exists until we understand the actual performance needs
so
first.
perfect. That right there is the definition of a performance first mindset, right? A training first mindset goes, okay, this is a rev
Mhm.
of 1.0. Let's start with 1.0. Let's look at the outline. So let's get to RCOs. Love the acronym. I'm old enough before you were probably born to remember the journey into reusable learning objects. Holy cow. And we were all on it. This was the beginning of e-learning. It made perfect sense because this digital thing was knocking at our door. So digital is a lot easier to reuse than paper or word. It just, a very bizarre shift. RCOs, reusable content objects. You mentioned them as the foundation of your content strategy, and they are in this movement of I think, the rebirth of content management. So for teams wrestling with reuse, we all have wrestled with that whole thing. What have you learned about making modular content actually usable, not just technically correct?
Mhm. The very first thing is just having a consistent architecture for all of your designers. I think that's like
Hmm.
that underpins everything. If Joe is designing differently than Chris is designing differently than Susan, there's really not going to be opportunity to reuse at all. So having consistent design methodology and consistent language. And this is, I think, where we are in the journey, where we got those 2 points down. Check, check. We're all in, and my team, we're all using that content architecture to build reusable content objects the same. But where we're kind of taking it now is chunking as small as possible.
Hmm.
Maybe when we're building content that shows a process, an example is going to be different for team A versus team B. So
Yep.
let's not build the example into that process. Build that
Hmm.
separately, because then I can just interchange it where it's
Hmm.
needed.
Hmm.
And then the last thing is doing your best, and hear me out, doing your best to predict the future. And I'm saying that because it sounds impossible, but it's really not
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
impossible. If you have a workflow, so one that you had mentioned earlier was access issues. Someone is
Yep.
coming to support saying, hey, I can't access my account. And I'm
Right.
building this just for accessing Facebook. There's probably going to be similar things that is happening, similar actions that the actual content reviewer or support person has to take for Facebook, for Instagram, for Threads,
Yep.
for
Yep.
WhatsApp. So even if I'm building just with Facebook in mind, thinking, okay, how can I write this in such a way that it could potentially be reused for anyone?
Mm.
I don't know if it's eventually going to be reused, but I'm going to just assume it is. That being said, you might get it wrong. And that's
Yeah.
okay because content isn't just supposed to be made one time and then never touched
Right.
again. We can go back and edit it. And that happens in our org all the time. Hey, you built this. It works perfectly for what I need except this one paragraph or this image. Can we work together to edit this and make it
Mm-hmm.
reusable for everyone? Oh, yeah, sure. No problem. That's better for all of us in the long run.
So let me ask you, if you don't mind, a
Mhm.
little deeper on this structure idea, because I think people who listen say, well, all my IDs use the same Word doc.
Mm.
Is that an RCO? If we can go a little off script, if you don't mind, but get a little more granular in this, because I think structured authoring in your world and the importance of structures becomes so innate to the DNA that is your group and that is the work that you do for your learners that I think in so many ways you've leapfrogged how many listening think about structure. Because I think you're right. In so many organizations, it's the art of design, not the science of design. And so Bill writes different than Mary, even though we both start with the same Word doc. And you're
Mhm.
talking about something very different here, right? The granularity of that structure. Can you give us a little insight about what structure means to Meta in your group?
Yeah. And we're very lucky that we work with so many amazing partners that provide us the technology that enables us to do this, where we're
Mm,
building in our software. And we use Xyleme, and we're able to all build in the same program and reuse naturally
mm,
there. Not every single organization is going to be able to do that, and not immediately.
right.
Um, so I think having that consistency is really key because I don't want to rebuild anything where I
Right.
can. And sure, using the same templates, that's only part of it. It's having that same understanding of what is our purpose. And this is getting more into the design piece. The same language, the same
Mm-hmm.
style,
Yep.
something that I think, and I'm sure we'll talk about AI soon as well. Something
Yep.
that I think can help there a lot is AI. And I'm not all about, oh, just put everything in AI and have it do it for you, but you can have AI help you build a
Sure.
consistent style. If I write something, I'm like, oh, this actually looks different than so and so's, I can give an AI agent, hey, look at this writing sample. Take what I wrote and help it
Mm,
sound the same. That can help a lot too. But it's more than just having the same templates. It's also
yep.
about having an infrastructure where we're reusing. If I'm building something, I need to make sure it's available for everyone else who wants to reuse it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
in an ideal, more high-tech situation, if I make an edit to that RCO, I want that edit to be cascaded out to everyone. So single source authoring, I think, is really, really important here. It's definitely a journey, though. So I think if you're an organization that's looking to get there and you're just not quite ready yet, building that content architecture is going to be absolutely key. That's where a lot of the thrash is for instructional
Yep.
designers, where they feel like they're losing some creativity. If you can get that change out of the way first, and
Yep.
then you come in with a tool that enables people to move even faster, that's going to be better for you than just waiting to try to change the tool and how in your content architecture all at once.
And we see that a lot. People buy a Xylem-like tool, and then that is the trigger for content structure.
Hmm.
And sometimes the tails, the dog chasing the tail kind of thing. And to your point, I think before you get to even that platform, the organizational discussion around content types, structure of those types, is agnostic from the platform. It's the structure then that you put in the platform and governs how you go further. You mentioned AI, and a perfect example of that. You're using it to generate structured first drafts, kind of what you just mentioned. So, what surprised you in terms of what AI really does well? I mean, and where do human designers still absolutely need to lead? Where in your world, because there's so much fear about this. I mean, I was just on a conversation the other day with somebody. There's this binary discussion that I think is unfair about I either have a job if I don't go AI, or I get AI and it takes my job, particularly in the world of L&D. Let's just call that out. It's the elephant in the room. What reality have you found in the balance of using tools like this?
First, I've just never been a believer that AI is going to be able to take our jobs. It's going to change our jobs and
Yep.
change how we do them. And it's probably going to open up new jobs. I think for every job that AI quote unquote replaces, a new one
Hmm.
opens. So just want to get that out of the way. That's a huge belief that I have. When using AI, especially when we're generating those structured first drafts, it's so good at summarizing. Really, really good at summarizing. If I have a huge policy that I've read, but I maybe don't remember where I'm supposed to go next, it's so good at doing all that work for me. It's also really good at reorganizing content to help in those structured drafts. And that's where I tend to use it the most, as well as with brainstorming. If I don't know how to approach something, I'm just chatting with AI like it's my
Yep.
buddy. We're kind of going back and forth. And a lot of the ideas are coming from my head, but
Right.
I need someone to bounce the ideas off of. And where I think AI maybe doesn't do what we can do as humans is what I mentioned earlier at the in enable at the engage to align and the
Yep.
analyze part. AI doesn't really understand what the human has to do all the time. Doesn't
Right.
understand the actual workflow. It probably doesn't have the knowledge that our subject matter experts do. It could maybe help us figure it out a little bit, but we're still going to have to engage with the business.
Hmm.
It's probably not going to be able to understand complexity and criticality of failure as much, maybe a little bit,
Yep.
but I would never use that to just do my LEAP plan for me.
Yep.
And it's not going to understand the nuances of reusability. Like I said, we need to try to predict the future, and it's already hard enough for us. AI it's just statistics. It's just going
Hmm.
off of what already has happened.
Hmm.
It's not going to be able to understand the nuances the same way that we can. But we can certainly use it to help us get a head start. But we
Yep.
got to take it over the finish line. We got to get it there. We need to do those checks.
I love that. And you mentioned performance consulting. I think for the 40 years I've been at this, Aubrey, there's this I want the seat at the table. I don't want to just be an order taker
Hmm.
because we're seen as content creators and almost like a factory mentality. Well, AI lifts that burden. AI
Yeah,
accelerates all of that. It removes that cognitive load and laborsome lift to let us maybe become more performance consultant like, have deeper conversations with the business. That's what I think a true ID is called to want to do in the first place.
exactly. There's so many great AI tools that can build videos for you, and they're really, really good. Awesome. I get to now spend my time not
Yes.
building videos. I get to spend my time with the business, understanding impact.
Yes.
And I think we all know in L&D, sometimes it feels like maybe we're not as appreciated as I think we should.
Correct.
We're a little bit forgotten. Like you said, we're order takers. If I'm able to show my impact in terms of the business changes,
Mm-hmm.
the metrics that we
Mm-hmm.
moved, because I am actively in the business,
Love that.
they're going to want us involved and engaged a lot earlier.
Not.
And we've seen that definitely. I feel like compared to some of my previous jobs, I'm at the table a lot sooner.
That's brilliant.
And even of the past 3 years I've been with Meta, it's just been getting sooner and sooner and sooner. We're a part of the team, and it's
That's
great.
brilliant. And RWA, I hear, is something that's fairly well known
Yeah.
at Meta. So we're talking about a mindset shift. We've done a podcast on mindset shifts.
Mhm.
And, oh boy, I had a conversation the other day with somebody who said AI is going to finally do that. And I got to be honest with you, friend, I don't know because I've been down the chase of technology to change an outcome road before. And unless I'm shifted to the performance first world you discuss, I can still use a brand new tool to make the same old stuff.
Hmm.
Maybe flashier or quicker. There's still the methodology begets technology thing. So you've highlighted the importance of letting go of this thing, this whole mindset of everything needs formal training or all that type of stuff. What did it take for your team? And probably more importantly, the stakeholders, because they're who we ultimately serve, right? They can demand we still make training, even though we don't want to. So, how did your team and stakeholders actually make this shift?
I want to be transparent in that the shift was not easy by
Yeah,
any means.
sure, right.
And it may not sound like it, but you are talking to a huge skeptic. I was probably not an easy person to get on board right away. Definitely in my head, I was like, Psh, no. And I had the same thought that a lot of designers have when moving to this new way of working, and that's
Mm,
I'm not going to be creative anymore.
yeah,
What? This is not what I signed up for. Or if I'm not making formal learning, what am I doing?
right. What's my value?
Yeah. So I think that the thing that really changed me was seeing success stories. That was
Mm,
huge. And seeing all the creative solutions that were able to come out of this. And I don't mean a really pretty video
right.
or cool animations in a PowerPoint presentation. Like you said, not the same old stuff built differently. Seeing, oh, whoa, this person was able to engage so closely with their stakeholders that they created a whole suite. It was a full onboarding plus the performance support materials. They reduced time to competency. They improved customer satisfaction. I want to do that. That's where
Yeah.
I get to have my impact. So that's kind of what it took for me was seeing that in action and then kind of taking that leap of faith and jumping right in and saying, oh, if I follow this, I could probably do this too.
Mm,
For our stakeholders, I think it was the same thing, showing our impact. Yes, and you've talked to Angie before. She's on my team. She's all about that yes and.
yeah.
Yes, we can train them and
Yep.
we can improve your customer satisfaction, your quality metrics, kind of tying everything back to the business really helped the stakeholders. And that's when they now reach out to us and ask,
I
how
love
would
that.
you approach this? The stakeholders who've engaged with us at least one time in this new way of working as performance consultants, they don't even bother with asking us for training anymore.
That's
Maybe we'll
awesome.
give them training, maybe that's what they need, but they trust us a lot more. And that's
So
been
awesome.
such a great experience.
I love the yes and thing because until I found this, new and more isn't the yes and part.
Hmm.
It was the training thing. And you're right. I think stakeholders, we've taught them to think that's what we do. And so they kind of even get a little bit defensive about that. But in the end, as you guys have done so brilliantly, and I think you just described it, once they see what we can do in the yes and part, they're like, well, frankly, this is what I want all along, to the point of they don't even ask for training per se anymore. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so friend, I say that I do this in everyone because we bring such future thinking folks like you and such people that have really gone deep and committed to the methodology. People listening out there had may not even started the journey. So to start this and begin with a workflow learning idea, what's one thing when you look back on your journey that you would do differently? School of Hard Knocks. And
Mhm.
what's one thing that you're like, nailed it? You got to do this. Give us both ends of the spectrum.
So I think the thing I would recommend doing differently, and we sort of talked about this earlier, is not trying to introduce the new tool and the new way of working all exactly at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Because it definitely was really easy to just lean on as that
Uh,
skeptic, as that instructional designer. Oh, this is just how we have to make the tool work. The tool's not working for us, we're working for the tool, which really wasn't the case, but it was very easy to just get overwhelmed with the amount of change. I would say
mm,
focus first on moving towards this performance first mindset, scaling it out to everyone, building your content architecture, and then your tool. Process first. We got to
brilliant.
do process first. The thing that I wouldn't skip again, and this is probably not a super exciting answer and maybe a little nerdy, is rapid workflow analysis. Honestly, learning how to do that completely changed the game.
Yep.
100%.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
if I don't know what the workflow is, I can't build workflow learning, end of story. Uh,
Brilliant. It's the
and
first pivot, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a hard thing to pick up if you haven't done it before. And it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I think for a lot of instructional designers, it doesn't feel super exciting, but it is so critical. It's that A in Addy, but now it's our A in enable.
Uh,
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, can't say enough about you as a colleague. It's so inspiring for Con and I to meet younger people like you that are carrying this torch forward, so committed to the methodology and work so hard at doing it well. We can't thank you enough for that. And Aubrey, thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights and your wisdom in this. Well, Dr. Aubrey Kurteff, it is an honor to know you and have met you. Thanks for who you are and all you do. Appreciate you being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. This is so special because I was citing you and Khan in my class papers before you guys knew me, so this is really special. Thank you.
Appreciate you, friend. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode of the 5 Moments of Need Performance Matters series. We look forward to future conversations around how to best put the 5 Moments of Need into practice. We welcome your feedback and can be reached on our 5 Moments of Need website, which is www.5momentsofneed.com. We hope you're finding these helpful and will subscribe to future episodes. Have a great day, friends.